Is this thing on?
It is on. I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. All right.
And we're all good.
All right.
Welcome to another Wednesday night roundtable. As you see, we have our full panel plus a special guest tonight. Our friend, a very busy man.
He ain't no friend this week. Matter of fact, you ain't no friend this week.
He's a friend of mine.
He a friend of yours. He ain't no friend of mine, and you ain't no friend of mine.
Wait a minute now. Let's not be enemies this week, man.
We ain't friends. We ain't friends.
Charles, you can tell like he cares a whole lot more about this than we do.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
you should care, Kendrick. I pay your look. I might dock. I'm seriously thinking about docking pay this week for you.
Why always threatening me with money, man? Why is this?
It seems to always get your attention when I do.
You worse than Elon Musk, man. You a horrible boss.
Oh, so you're gonna compare me to Musty now?
Yes, I am.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, all right. I say we gonna talk about you, J State folks later. Okay, I see you, J State. Okay, oh.
You're outnumbered 2-1.
That's
tonight.
all.
I mean, on the panel, yeah, 2-1, yeah, and millions of people across the United States of America too.
I see Charles. Where's the second one?
Well, Tiger Nation is always somewhere lurking.
Yeah,
so.
they lurking somewhere. Yeah.
All right, now go on. Hey, America. Anyway, go ahead, Kendrick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but welcome to our show tonight. This is rivalry week again for some schools. Some other schools start conference play. We're gonna talk about all of that tonight, plus one additional non-sports story. Welcome to the show. It's Ken. He's been bossing me around. I'm Kendrick. It's Jared Hoffman, Chris Stevens, and Jackson State's own Charles Bishop joining us tonight for what will be a special show. First, let's get it started with games to watch this week based off of Jared Hoffman's list he compiles every week for us. You can read it on our website and find it there with a little bit more detail than what we have here. But he starts off with Winston-Salem State versus Virginia State, Hampton against Howard in the battle of the real HU, Virginia Union versus Johnson C. Smith, who may be the best D2 team in Black college football circles. Then we have the Aggie Eagle Classic. A&T will take on North Carolina Central. And the game of the week, Jackson State versus Grambling State, in what could be an historic turnout at Eddie G. Robinson Stadium, according to Grambling's AD. Let's go straight down the list. And Jared, talk about the games here, WSSU versus Virginia State. How you see that one playing out?
Well, Virginia State comes into this game coming off a bye week. Their only D2 win of the season so far was a 23-7 win over Benedict in the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic. So they're well rested. They're going against the Winston-Salem State team that just beat Ohio Dominican 19-13. They've been off to a good start. They just improved to 2-1. So I think that'll be a good test for Winston-Salem State to see if they are a team that could be in the mix for the CIAA championship, the newly non-divisional CIAA. So I think this is going to be a good matchup. On paper, it looks like Virginia State would win pretty convincingly, but I'm not sure if Winston-Salem State is on their P's and Q's and they're able to stop the run. If they stay away from those DBs, I think that this could be a pretty good game.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I have to agree with Jared. It feels like Virginia State has all the, momentum. On paper, it looks like a really good team. I mean, they were picked to win the CIAA, but this is the first time Winston-Salem State has gone 2-1 in 6 years. So it feels like things are turning around down there in Winston-Salem. So hopefully that program can get back to where it was when they were playing for the Division II championship in 2012. It's been a long fall to the bottom for that program, but should be a good game. Really looking forward to seeing, if Virginia State can, enforce their will, or if this Winston-Salem State team is the real deal.
Yeah, Charles, I don't know how much you know about either one of these teams, but you guys do have a D2 show on your platform. What do you make of this game between the Rams and the Trojans?
Yeah, well, if it was one of those old CIAA North v South games, how many years did we see the CIAA North kind of have a stranglehold on the teams in the South? But I think Winston-Salem State, great early momentum early this season. But this should be a fun game. It's one of those games I'm going to keep an eye on with regards to the score, because I think, like Chris said and Jared said, you get to see whether Winston-Salem State, if they are really for real. And, the early returns, that was very impressive in terms of their rivalry game against North Carolina A&T. They went toe-to-toe, and a lot of people, look at it from the standpoint they should have won that game, but they gave it up there at the end. But this will be a stern test for Winston-Salem State.
Now we shift to Hampton versus Howard, and surprisingly, I learned that Howard hasn't won this game in a decade, which is surprising.
Is that right?
Almost a decade. Their last
Almost a decade.
Right? Okay, right. Okay.
Last
9 years?
2015.
Wow.
Yeah, about almost a decade in this one. Chris, you got an opportunity to listen to Larry Scott in the MEAC conference call on Monday talk about this game. Mm-hmm. Based on what he said, what do you make of Howard's chances to win? I know they blew a big lead last year. And probably should have won that one. What do you make of Howard's chances to come out on top this year?
Well, first of all, we got to let folks know that Howard has a quarterback change at the moment. Ja'Shawn Scroggins, who started the first two games, did not play against Morehouse last week. Jalen Torbert did. So Howard is, going through some quarterback things right now. But what I gathered from Coach Scott was there's a level of intensity in preparation for this game that Howard understands that they are tired of being considered second-class citizens in their own city whenever Hampton visits. So he said, you see the quote on the screen. That game has been a thorn in our side. Has been one that's been circled on our schedule. We understand that this year has to be different. We just want to put ourselves in the best position when it's possible to win this game. Yeah, I mean, again, this is the game. I mean, this game, their losing streak predates Coach Scott, so can't put it on him. It's just that Hampton has always got the better end of the bargain the last few years, but it's going to be a very fun ball game. I wonder how Howard's going to handle Hampton's two quarterback situation with Chris Zellis and Malcolm Mays. That to me has been what it has helped Hampton get off to a 2-1 start, because they were on 2-1 because they confused Morgan State with it. They beat Virginia State with it, and they beat Norfolk State like a drum with it, even though Chris Zellis got most of the snaps that last Saturday. So Howard's got to be prepared for that two quarterback system, and should be a very interesting ball game. I think when you get those two rather bourgeois HBCU alumni and stakeholders together in the in Chocolate City, it's going to be very interesting. So I feel like I want to pick Howard in that game. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick Howard in that game, but it wouldn't surprise me if this loser streak goes another year.
You know what? I kind of feel you on that, Chris, with Howard. And here's the thing, because for me, I'm kind of focused on Howard for the simple fact that I don't necessarily want anyone to view last year as a fluke, given how successful the season was before, they got to the Celebration Bowl. But as Coach Scott indicated, Hampton's been a thorn in their side for a while. And when you look at the games that they've played up to this point, they took their lumps against Rutgers. Mm-hmm. They beat Mercyhurst. And I don't know if the Morehouse game, I'm not saying that it just had to be an absolute blowout, but it did kind of leave me questioning exactly, what is it? Do we still know enough about what this Howard team has the potential to be as the season progresses? As I indicated last week, the unique thing about the MEAC schedule is that there are a lot of prep games that they've got to play before they get into actual conference play. So for Howard, we talked about it. They got Hampton, then they got Princeton, then they got Sacred Heart. So, I mean, that's actually a pretty decent FCS schedule. So I kind of want Howard to win this for the simple fact that I'd like to see them build momentum up and actually be one of those actual contenders for a MEAC title. But I think depending on whether Howard wins or lose this game on Saturday, I think it's going to tell us an awful lot about what we could potentially expect of them during the course of the rest of the way.
I think for me, it's like who wins in the trenches, because I want to see the physicality of both of these teams, especially when you take a look at Elijah Burris for Hampton, and then Jared Hunter is the counterpoint to that for Howard. So who is the team that could control the line of scrimmage? Because that's really what I'm paying attention to in this game, because if Howard can show me that physicality early, I think that goes a long way in terms of when they get into MEAC play, in terms of just looking at how these teams like to run the football.
Yeah, Jared, you agree with that?
Yeah, I was there at that game last year, and Howard should not have lost that game. Let me just say that. There's no reason why they should have lost that game. Just mind-boggling play calling. You're up 3 scores and you're passing the ball. Then when you get down in the fourth quarter on a 2-minute drive, you're running the ball. I'm not a football expert, but last time I checked, you shouldn't be running when you're down. It doesn't make sense when you're against the clock. It doesn't make sense. So, and then when the run, and one of the reasons why they had to is because the run game wasn't working. Outside of Ian Wheeler last year, they had 27 carries for 45 yards. That's not going to get it done. So when you talk about getting the job done in the trenches, you got to get Eden James going. You got to get Jared Hunter going. Otherwise, you're not beating this team. And also, you have to, as Bishop said, you got to stop the Hampton run game. Elijah Burris went for 130 yards last year. He ran all through that defense on 7 carries. So you have to be able to get stops and be able to run wild on that Hampton defense. Otherwise, you're not going to win this game.
Yeah, true words never been spoken. Like, I remember Jared telling me after that game last year, just stunned that like Howard lost that game. He couldn't believe the decisions that were being made by the coaching staff late in the fourth quarter that allowed Hampton to be in position to win the game that end up eventually winning. Moving on to Virginia Union versus John C. Smith now. John C. Smith last week blew out an opponent at home in their home opener. Virginia Union, we all think coming to the season was probably the best team in the CIAA, but now the tables are turned a little bit, which might be more of an evenly matched game we thought coming in at this point. Fellas, what do we think about this one, starting with Chris?
Well, when we talked about this briefly on Monday, WSSU Ram Nation, checked in and said that John C. Smith's wins were against 3 winless teams. And that's a fair assessment to make. But the way they won, just the overall physicality and dominance with which they won. I mean, this is a Lincoln team that a lot of people in HBCU football pundit land had as a sleeper team. And John C. Smith put them in a sleeper hole. The Cobra Clutch, the $1 Million Dream, whatever you want to call it. They had Lincoln in an absolute vice grip on Saturday. And I don't think that's a misnomer. I think Johnson C. Smith is a really good football team. How good? We're going to find out once Jada Byers starts toting that rock on Saturday, because, I mean, Jada Byers right now is one of the best running backs, not just in Division II, but in all of the country, quite frankly. So if they can find a way to keep him from running wild, if they can find a way to limit that Virginia Union passing offense, then yes, we might have to start talking about Johnson C. Smith as a true-to-life CIAA contender, but we won't know until the game starts. But right now, for them to start 3-0, especially since that program has been dormant for just about a decade, it's a nice sight to see.
Yeah, Charles, is this game kind of a litmus test for Johnson C. Smith coming off of wins over teams that haven't won games yet?
Yeah, huge litmus test for Johnson C. Smith because it's a prove-it-to-me game. I mean, we get to see if they're actually for real. And like Chris said, you're about to get a heaping helping of Jada Byers. And, I mean, night game in Charlotte, I mean, I think a lot of the HBCU environment will be paying attention to this Virginia Union Johnson C. Smith game. So, I mean, they get to justify whether they are for real. So I think it's going to be a fun game. And I think Johnson C. Smith, although, you know, they step up big in the level of competition in terms of taking on Virginia Union, but I think they got enough to get it done.
Jared, what say you about the chances that JCSU actually stuns everybody and beats Virginia Union?
Well, I think that everybody knows about Jada Byers, but what people aren't thinking about is Curtis Allen, is the backup running back who also has been prone to have big games. So I hope that Johnson C. Smith is not focusing their entire game plan on defense on just Jada Byers, because Curtis Allen can go for 100 yards, 200 yards as well. But I think that a lot is made of Johnson C. Smith only beating winless teams. But what I look at is you not playing down to your competition. You beating the teams that you are supposed to beat. And that's what they did. And they did it convincingly without any drama. So I think that I don't think that their wins were a fluke. Now, whether or not they are a contender or not is different. So I think this will be a huge litmus test. Quavaris Crouch has been excellent to start the season. Brevin Caldwell, I've said, has been a CIAA Offensive Player of the Year front runner. Him and the Virginia State running back as well, along with Jada Byers, of course. So I think this is. I think everybody knows that this is going to be a prove it game for Johnson C. Smith. They have to prove it to us that they are going to win this game, because I don't see Virginia Union stopping anytime soon. Because in that defense for Virginia Union is very lethal. So they're going to have. This is probably going to be the best defense they're going to see all season.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be a pretty tight game, and like Charles said, like this is going to be a huge litmus test for Johnson C. Smith to try to prove that, hey, they are true contenders and not just taking advantage of cupcakes. And we'll say this one goes. The Aggie Eagle Classic, this one's going to be played at North Carolina Central this year. At North Carolina Central on paper should be the favorite, considering A&T has just struggled minorly the last couple of years. But it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. We saw that when A&T played WSSU. They were in a dogfight that one. So guys, how do you think this one might play out? Starting with Ken.
So let me ask you this, Kendrick. You say Central should be the favorite. Why?
I mean, just their resume. They are an FCS playoff team. They've won the Celebration Bowl in the last 3 years. Their run that they have gone on now started with beating North Carolina A&T in Charlotte a couple of years ago, when we thought A&T was still on the rise. And since that point, both teams are taking different directions. Central is on top right now, and A&T has kind of been treading water a little bit below, coming off a 1-10 season last year.
Okay,
and
so I feel you, but I'm gonna just tell you now, all of that you said ain't got nothing to do with this year, and I'm talking strictly about this year, because to be quite honest with you, I expected a little bit more out of Central up to this point, and I'm not all that convinced that they are necessarily a favorite going into this game against A&T. I honestly think this is a coin flip. It has nothing to do with the rivalry. I just hadn't really seen a whole lot of Central that makes me think that they're as good as we've been giving them credit for up to this point. And we're only 3 games in. But I'm just simply tap the brakes, because I'm not necessarily saying that A&T is all that. Oh, see, we've already got some. I just don't know, Kendrick, if we're to the point where, put like this, Central hasn't done anything to give me the indication that they're just going to be head and shoulders better than A&T on Saturday. I can't be, and you know how I feel about my man Trey Oliver. I love that brother. I do.
But the counterpoint is, what has A&T showed you they can actually win this game, though?
That's the thing. It's not that A&T has showed me anything. It's what North Carolina Central hasn't showed me up to this point. I haven't seen A&T play yet. I haven't. That's why I'm not really saying a whole lot about A&T. It's just that what little I've seen of Central up to this point doesn't necessarily give me any inclination to think that they're just going to automatically go in and when they play A&T Saturday that they're going to win. I'm just saying that's just my viewpoint at this juncture.
Let me ask this question: is the fact that A&T had to fight tooth and nail with Winston-Salem State, is that a data point? I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Winston-Salem.
You got to take it into account, though. They needed a late fourth quarter draft to tie the game.
I don't agree with that. Because Norfolk State last year, they lost to Virginia State, and then they went to Hampton. They beat Hampton. So that I don't think that struggling with a D2 program has nothing to do with what you do against the FCS program. You gotta attack the team that you're playing against. The team that you played, and I learned that from talking to players. They never think about what happened in past games. It never has any bearing on what happens in this game. So I don't think that North Carolina A&T struggling against Winston-Salem State is going to have anything to do with how they play against North Carolina Central.
I'll say this. When I talked to Trey Oliver on Monday at the coaches conference, he mentioned that Walker Harris was in concussion protocol. They were down a couple of defensive linemen. They actually had to move some young offensive linemen who were, on the pine to the defensive line to finish the North Carolina game. So Central's dealing with some things right about now, and we don't know if the depth of that roster is going to be able to withstand whatever A&T brings on Saturday night. So, and yeah, like Jared said, I mean, there's literally nothing that says that a D2 is there's any shame in struggling or losing to a Division II. There have been times, I mean, Delaware State lost to Bowie last year, and I mean, and yeah, that was pretty embarrassing, but they had Howard on the ropes for our homecoming last year. So, I mean, every different week is a different game. So, yeah, A&T had to come back late to beat Winston-Salem State, but the fact of the matter is they still won. And Central has to overcome injuries, has to overcome playing North Carolina. I mean, they played North Carolina pretty close, all things considered, going into the fourth quarter. But
and Chris, and that's why I think that Central is going to win this game, because they went to a P4 school on the road and played them tough for 4 quarters, well, maybe 3.5, because North Carolina kind of pulled away at the end there. And you got to take into account, while A&T, their only win of the season was against a D2 school at home. They had to go on the last second drive to tie the game and then win in overtime. And plus, this team's only won 2 games out of our last 11. I mean, it seemed like we gave them the benefit of the doubt to A&T over a team that has a reputation of actually winning.
Counterpoint. North Carolina Central's only win is against the Bama State team that has only beaten Miles.
Exactly right.
And they struggled against they were horrible against Elon.
Exactly right.
I think you could look at both sides and say there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't think there's any definitive way to say, unless you're looking at just last year, then yes, you could look at North Carolina Central and say they should absolutely win this game. But if you look at what has happened this year, there is no indication that it is a foregone conclusion that North Carolina Central will win this game.
Chris, did you say Walker Harris is in concussion protocol?
That's what Trey Oliver said on Monday. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I hadn't seen much from Walker up to this game, so I don't know what Central has waiting in the wings there. So.
I mean, for me, it was going to be a drop off anyway, because a quarterback like Davius Richard, that young man, only comes along once in a few classes.
Once every 10 years. Yeah.
Like you could have probably picked a Power 5 transfer and still would have been struggling, because Davius Richard was just that special of an athlete. Mm-hmm. But Harris, I don't think he's a bad quarterback at all. I just think it was going to take him some getting used to it. And then, of course, now him being, in the protocol as of Monday, that's going to put him behind the learning curve again. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot about this game that is just totally unknown, and we won't know until these teams actually take the field Saturday night.
Okay. Everybody's thinking A&T has a chance. I don't, but I'm gonna stay on the island. I'm gonna stay on the island by myself and say Central is gonna win this one. And our last game to watch is the big one, at least from my standpoint, Charlotte's standpoint, and Ken's standpoint for some reason. It's Jackson State versus Grambling State, a non-conference SWAC game.
Real quick, who did this graphic? You?
A producer did the graphic. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be Grambling State versus Jackson State's daddy.
This is why the people don't like y'all.
Lord have mercy.
And they thought Southern was the arrogant fan base.
It should be Grambling State versus Jackson State's daddy.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything about the last time y'all played Jackson State, but I'm just glad y'all got y'all G back. That's all I got to say.
Okay. What? Y'all didn't have anything to do with that.
It seems like we've been wearing Jackson State's been wearing the daddy jacket lately, though, King. Huh?
Dude, you guys have won 3 games in the last 10 years.
I'll take that.
It's all you got.
And you know what? Historically,
we've been whipping y'all's ass. That's exactly what it is. I want to say the lead is something like 21. I think you guys, dude, we could lose for 10 straight years and you still wouldn't take us over. I think we got something like 21 years of just consistent ass beatings, whether it be at your daddy's house or whether it be at Grambling East over there on I-20 off of Lynch Street.
Hey, whatever. Whatever. And you know what? I can't fight you because during the SWAC championship era, you know, Grambling has had more than the better of Jackson State during 99 through up until the fun kind of stopped.
There you go.
Around
that's
2021.
That's how you respect your daddy. That's very
Whatever.
good, Charles Bishop. Very good.
Whatever.
Very good.
But Ken, just like
But Kendrick-
my man Mark.
Kendrick,
my qual outlaw said, what have y'all done lately?
Kendrick,
what have y'all done lately?
You need to be, you know, we got some work to do with you. You're not a believer yet. You know, we're gonna beat y'all so bad you're gonna wish Dion come back.
Oh God!
What are you talking? See, here we go again with this nonsense. See, man.
Okay.
Ken relishes being public enemy number one.
He loves it. I get it.
He loves it,
I
man.
get
He
it.
loves it.
But you know, one more L is not gonna hurt him. It'll be 4 in a row. We
Okay,
got a
no,
nice.
seriously.
We have a nice.
No. Okay, so your views, no, seriously, you guys, your take, Jackson State and Grambling. Kendrick, you got to take on that or what?
I'm gonna take the Kurt Herbstreit approach and not get myself involved in it.
Fair enough.
But all I'm
Jared?
gonna say is I'm gonna agree with the pundits on our chat.
Jackson State only beat Grambling in 2007. That's right. Like I said, 3 wins in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's been some rough coaching during that time, but you know the scales kind of got back on balance in 2021. So.
Hey, Charles, I'm gonna tell you this though. We're gonna let your band in, okay? Y'all welcome to come and go as you please. We'll let you in. We won't let you wait.
I love the gamesmanship this past week. That was fun.
And look, I'm gonna tell you this now too. There'll be plenty of water.
Oh,
plenty of water.
There again, water.
There'll be plenty of water.
Oh man,
we won't run out
They
of
better
water.
have plenty of water because according to Trevion Scott, the AD for Grambling,
Yeah.
this game may be a sellout.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So here is why, and look, when you put this matchup in consideration, and I really want to put this in perspective just to give you guys some idea as to why this really could be a sellout, especially with the configuration of the stadium and so forth, and needless to say, Jackson is who they are with respect to the fan base and so forth, and so when the game is played there in Grambling, the attendance is pretty solid, okay? But the reason why this matters, they say, winning tends to, make a huge difference when it comes to people, participation and so forth. Jackson is 2-1. And while just to kind of give you guys some idea as to how feudal Grambling football has been over the last several years, do you guys know that Grambling has not started the season 2-1 since 2017? 2017 is the last time Grambling started the season 2-1. Now that ain't saying a whole lot, but just so you know, that 2017 team went on to win the SWAC championship and went to the Celebration Bowl before losing to the Fighting Rod Broadway. So I'm just saying, but there is a really good chance that game could be sold out by Saturday. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, like the largest attended game at Eddie G. Robinson Stadium was in 1994 when Grambling hosted Alcorn State, which had Steve Mir on the team.
Oh my!
And that day was, the school said it was better than 24,000 people showed up that day.
Remember that well? Yeah.
Oh my God!
Remember that one well?
It never in my life did it take me 45 minutes to get from Grambling to Dairy Queen in Ruston, traveling down Highway 80. 45 minutes in back-to-back traffic. It was god awful.
Was that
I remember that like it was yesterday.
Steve McNair and Kendrick Nord?
Oh, yeah. Air McNair and Kendrick Nord, man, classic. I think it was a 59, 50. It was something. Oh my God.
Yeah.
59, 56, I believe. Oh,
Yeah.
what a game. Oh my goodness.
That was a
Oh, but there have been a number of legendary games. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give Bishop an opportunity to speak because he was telling us about a particular matchup that took place. Was
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
86?
think I believe it was 1986. I mean, it was the night Lewis Tillman broke Walter
Yes,
Payton's
sir.
career rushing record for Jackson State. I mean, the place was packed, but it was Lewis Tillman versus Walter Dean. That was a memorable game in every aspect, even down to the mascots. So,
Man, mascots even got into a fight. But no. So we were kind of talking about that before the show started. But you started telling the story because you said basically, and I didn't know this. You said something along the lines of like Wavy Dave got into like another fight, as if to say this wasn't his first time. And by the way, to his credit, he got them hands.
Oh yeah,
he got them hands.
What Wavy Dave? I mean, when you talk about iconic mascot for Jackson State, and you talk about an individual who loved Jackson State to his core. I mean, he protected the brand, the Block JSU at all costs. I remember that was a altercation down there with Grambling. I believe the next year there was an altercation with Seymour Eagle when Jackson State played USM, where he picked up.
Oh
Seymour
wow,
Eagles.
did he really?
Hey, he suplexed him. He suplexed him. But I mean, the brother was iconic, and like you say, he had them hands. He protected the brand at all costs. So.
Davey had them hands, man. I had to give him because look, I knew the brother who was the Grambling mascot at the time. I went to school with him. I was literally a student at that game when that fight happened. We called him Psycho. Man, we clowned that dude, man. To this day, man, I said, dude, he put them things on you. He put them things on you.
Yeah, Wavy's from Chicago, man. He loved him some Jackson State, man. That was tell you what. I mean, there are so many Wavy instances where he's protecting the brand that it's I could keep talking and whatnot, but those were the ones that stood out. I remember, like I said, we went down to USM, packed the place, and just a little something before the game, and all of a sudden everybody's pointing, and all of a sudden you see this Eagle mascot flying backwards. It was a super it was wide open, man.
Okay, so let's try to preview this, Charles. So tell us right now, with this J-State team, both teams coming in 2-1. So I saw the comment. Someone said something. What has Graham done this season? Well, I'm guessing this is a Jackson State fan. Who was that said that? Marquell Outlaw. Okay, he got him some Jackson State gear. Well, let me ask you this, Marquell. What has Jackson State done this season? Like, for real? What has Jackson State done?
Shall I answer that?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean, let's go back to the Louisiana Monroe game. What stood out to me in that game is they met the FBS physicality standard. So They didn't get blown off the ball. That was the big thing in terms of playing Louisiana Monroe. And they were in that game, as we go into the third quarter. So that game hung in the balance for a while. They did what, many Jackson State fans would say they were supposed to do against Lane. They hit a fly with a sledgehammer. Southern stands out, and I still think the story is being written on Southern, but Southern stands out because Jackson State was just physically more dominant than Southern. I have not seen Southern beat up like that in a while. Normally when we see a Southern football team, the offensive line, they're normally bruisers, or at least during the Dawson Odoms era, we saw a different offensive line. But Jackson State won on both lines of scrimmage. When you're talking about defensive line whooping Southern at the point of attack, only limiting them to 29 yards. And then Jackson State being able to run for over 200 yards. So, and I think it harkens back to what, a lot of Jackson State fans like to see, and it's sort of that DNA of old Jackson State back in the 90s, where you had a dominant offensive line that were really road graders. And you talk about a bevy of backs that Jackson State has. When you talk about Irv Mulligan, the guy who bangs it in between the tackles. When you talk about Ahmad Miller, who has the speed to get outside. We saw that last week, a sprint option play, was able to get outside and run in for a touchdown. Travis Terrell, a bit of a scat back type guy. And then you have J.D. Martin, who's sort of a Swiss Army knife, a guy who can run in between the tackles, bounce outside, catch the ball out of the backfield. So T.C. Taylor, he has a lot of toys, especially in the backfield. And when you start sucking in them safeties, guess what happens? Those big receivers get downfield, and they're able to incorporate the tight end into the game. We saw that this past week, and I think that's one of the things that has stood out for me, that play action and Marvin Landy running down the seam. So they have some toys to play with.
Yeah, Charles, what about the QB situation with JSU? I know there was some uncertainty going into the week. How's it going to play out, you think?
I would expect Jacobian Morgan to get the start. I know Cameron McCoy, he was injured last week and didn't come back into the game. But to Jacobian's credit, he was smart with the football. He took the checkdowns. And more than anything, he didn't turn the ball over. So I think that those were sort of the keys that I've seen with regards to Jackson State, because I think you saw last week what you're going to see with Jackson State the rest of the season. You're going to see somewhere, 15 to 20 pass attempts, but really trying to run the football, because they have just a bevy of backs to try to run the football. And like I said, once they get the running backs up and going, the play action really takes over.
Yeah, so Chris, Jared, your thoughts on this game? Do you agree with Grambling's going to have their hand full with the Jackson State backfield, or how do they kind of counter that? Starting with Chris.
Yeah, they're going to have to really, as Charles Bishop said, meet them at the point of attack, because if you can't stop, Charles named, by my count, I was listening, 4 or 5 running backs. When you have that level of depth and that level of versatility in your backfield, you can do whatever you want, however, whenever. And if Grambling can't stop, the guys, coming out on the wheel routes, if they can't stop the guys between the tackles, it's going to be a long day, as an Unstoppable 25 said. So, I want to pick Grambling because, they had a really good, people are down on Texas A&M Commerce because they're in the middle of that Division II to FCS transition. But the fact of the matter is, Grambling came from, I want to say, 14 points down in the fourth quarter and win that game. On the road.
Yeah, but so Chris, to that point about that transition from Division II, that process is a 4 or 5 year process. It's a 4-year process. They're in year 4 right now, so there really isn't a true transitional period at this point. That the A&M, for all intents and purposes, is a legitimate FCS program that will be eligible to compete for an FCS national championship starting next year, as well as win a Southland title and all that good stuff effective next year. There really is no transition at this point. That A&M Commerce is a legitimate FCS program. Now, whether you want to question whether or not the win was a solid win, I don't know. But the bottom line is that all I would say is this. I can't sit up here and tell you that team last year, Grambling's team last year, led by Hugh Jackson, I can't sit up here and in good faith and tell you that Grambling would have won that game last year. I don't think that would have. Grambling's got some talent this year. The wide receivers are talented. We already know who the quarterback is with that. Defensive backs are talented. The linebackers are talented. There is some talent there. But but with respect to the argument that you were making about A&M being an FCS team, that's not even an issue at this point. So I just want to push. I'm not trying to make excuse, but that transition from D2 to FCS, that's no longer a legitimate argument. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, saying that's what, folks were like, all right, well, they're in the middle of transition, whatever. But still, you got, regardless, you got, being down 7, thanks to PV versus everybody for correcting me, being down 7 on the road at someone else's building and still coming back and winning that game shows a lot of guts, shows a lot of determination. And this is Miles Crawley's game to prove why he was the preseason offensive player of the year, I feel like. If he has a great game passing the ball, doesn't turn it over, then Grambling has a shot. But I'm really just coming away impressed. Granted, we don't know what Southern is yet. And despite Kendrick Marshall's best wishes of a shutout, Jackson State still looked pretty impressive against Lane like they were supposed to. So I'm not. I mean, this is a game that I'm not ready to pick a winner yet, and of course, I have to do so for my HBCU weekly predictions, which will be out on our website tomorrow. So I'm probably gonna sleep on this and then pick a winner in the morning. But right now, this is absolutely the game I feel like everybody's gonna be watching, and I can't wait to see the bantering back and forth on social media about it. This is just gonna be one of those games where everybody's just gonna have their eyes trained on it, and it should be a fun game to watch.
I don't disagree with you real quick, Chris, but and I'm just we didn't mention this game, but and I'll agree this may be the game that everyone watches, but doesn't Southern play Prairie View Saturday as well?
They do.
So I mean, that might be one of those games that I think it could be one of those games in which we kind of get some idea, okay, what kind of Southern team this is versus what type of PV team we can expect as well. So even though it wasn't mentioned in the slate of games that we listed on that screen, I think the Southern and Prairie View game may be one of those games that we might have to kind of open up your iPad or kind of make sure you monitor during the course of that game. So sorry to cut you off, Charles. Go ahead.
No, quick question, Ken, and I'm just curious, just from a Grambling standpoint, is it concerning that they gave up over 200 yards on the ground last week, and then you have a running team coming in this week?
According to Coach Joseph, I guess it's a concern. But for me, and I said this from the jump, this is why I was when that schedule was published, I was happy with the way the flow of the games were, because basically, and as you guys know, this game with Jackson State is considered a non-conference game. It's not going to have any kind of impact whatsoever on conference standing. So I figured Grambling's got 4 games to play that won't have any kind of impact whatsoever on the SWAC standings until they play Prairie View in the State Fair Classic. So I guess my point is that if it is a concern, they've got time to right that ship before they go into conference play. Who said that? Hey man, it's my show. At least I'm being courteous. Sorry, Charles, I won't cut you off anymore. But anyway.
Yeah, Jared Hoffman, as a non-football expert, what is your expert opinion on this game?
As you can see by my subheading, I'm just an innocent bystander. I'm just
No longer Team Tiffany?
No. I was gonna say no longer Team Tiffany.
No, I'm Team Tiffany to the heart. I'm always Team Tiffany, even though you don't see it in my head, and I'm Team Tiffany. But look, I think there's been cause for concern for Grambling's defense. They've given up almost 400 yards in each of their 3 games. That's including against Tuskegee. So I think the defense is going to have to tighten up. You named all the backs that Jackson State has. I think they're going to be licking their chops trying to have a big game in this one. They had a pretty good performance against Southern last week at 200 yards against Southern. This is not Southern, but I think that they're going to have to be on high alert at the line of scrimmage if Grambling wants to win this game. In Jackson State, they're going to have their hands full with that Grambling offense. Miles Crawley has not had that breakout performance yet this year, and I think he's due, and I think he wants it to be in this game. So I just think that this is going to be one that is going to be fun to watch. And just a little footnote, every year that Jackson State has beaten Grambling, they've also won the SWAC. So who knows?
Which ain't often.
What are you talking about? See,
I'm just a messenger
for real, man.
I'm just a messenger.
I like that little breadcrumb.
Nice. Come on, man.
Good data point.
Which ain't often. I'm saying it ain't often that they beat Grambling. That's my point. I'm not talking about the championship. I'm just saying you trying to.
Okay, Ken. When was the last time Grambling won the SWAC?
2017.
And how many winning seasons they had since then?
Huh?
How many winning seasons have they had since then?
Huh? What you say?
How many winning seasons?
I can't hear you. Say what?
0, buddy. 0 winning seasons since then.
Oh God!
There you go.
Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear y'all.
Duly noted.
Kendrick, we're gonna talk offline, bro.
I mean, you can dish it out, but you can't take it, man.
I can take it.
No, you can't take it. You're cutting off Charles Bishop. You're cussing out the people talking on the chat. You're threatening my salary. Jesus Christ, man.
Yo, look at this comment, yo.
Hey, man, shout out. Hey. My grandmama always said, if you hum, you can hear.
If you can hum, you can hear.
Man, how y'all PV folks get to this, man? Y'all got other stuff to worry about. Y'all got Jags to worry about. Y'all beat y'all beat Northwestern State, and y'all just think y'all just goal line stand. Y'all just think y'all something. It's just all right. We'll see y'all in Ghetto Fest in a couple of weeks.
Ghetto Fest. So.
Hey, I got some comments to say about that, but we ain't there yet. But anyway, what's next?
Yeah, so we're gonna pivot, still J-State related, but not to Grambling. So Eddie George, the head coach of Tennessee State, last week ahead of the Southern Heritage Classic they played against Arkansas Pine Bluff, he was asked about the classic itself and his future. And during the course of his answer, he mentioned how nice it would be if they were to play Jackson State in the future. As we all know, Jackson State and Tennessee State no longer play with each other because Jackson State pulled out of the classic for reasons that Charles Bishop can explain better than I can. But here is Eddie George explaining why.
Real quick, Kendrick, before you do that, hey, fix your mic. I think something happened with your mic. I think your mic went out.
Tennessee State head coach Eddie George. Tigers played at number 2 ranked North Dakota State this past week. This week, they're going back in action. The Southern Heritage.
Talk about that real quick.
Hey, Kendrick, fix your mic. I think your mic went out.
Okay, hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're not tap on your mic. No, something's wrong with your mic. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll play the clip now.
All right.
TSU head coach Eddie George, the team, a convincing win over Mississippi Valley State in the John Merritt Classic, 1-0. Now they're going to face the number 2 ranked FCS team in the country at North Dakota State. So, Coach, some thoughts on your team, then we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, I'm really happy about the win last week. Going into week 1, you never know what you have until you go up against somebody different.
So anyway, Eddie George mentioned that it would be nice if they played Jackson State again. Charles Bishop, your thoughts on his desire that Tennessee State once again play Jackson State?
Listen, I think Jackson State and Tennessee State, those are 2 historic brands, and that meeting in Memphis is generational for a lot of people in terms of playing the Southern Heritage Classic. But the reality of it is the price has to be right. Jackson State, in the business of sports, you got to be able to get some revenue off of that game. And from Jackson State's perspective, they were coming up on the short end stick on that. So whenever the price becomes right again, I think it would be advantageous to see these 2 historic brands meet once again. And more than anything, I think I've talked to a lot of Memphis residents. They really miss that particular rivalry with regards to Jackson State and Tennessee State. And from talking to them, they grew up on that rivalry. And you sort of feel for the people of Memphis to be deprived of that game. But again, in the business of sports, you got to make a little bit of money. And I think Jackson State wants to be able to make money on that game. So until that happens, we'll just have to wait in the wings and see if it happens.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. Now, you can play like this. When Jackson State made the decision to pull out, and we already know what the factors were behind that, I couldn't necessarily fault them for the reasons why they did it. I guess I had a problem with the way they did it. But, given where we are right now, man, with college athletics and the expenses being what they are, what was the payout at the time? Was it $350,000?
Yeah, it was a number that you would not expect. I don't remember the exact
Right. Yeah.
number, but yeah, it was a number that you would sit back and say, "Oh my God, really?"
Yeah. Right.
You know.
So I mean, yeah, I get it, man. At this point, you got to pay to play. You got to pay to play. And I don't if Jay State for whatever reason decide, hey, we're open to it. Just make it worth our while to come. I completely get it.
Sure.
Taking nothing away from UAPB. I don't know what the payout is right now. I don't know what the contractual agreement is with Tennessee State and UAPB, but I don't blame Jackson State for saying that we don't have a problem playing you, but just make it worth our while to come up there. I completely get it.
Especially when you take a look at it from the standpoint of that a home game where you're going to be making revenue. So you're not going to give that up. I mean, it just has to be a situation where it's worth Jackson State's while to play that game again. But as somebody who grew up on that game, grew up as a child going to Memphis every year for the Southern Heritage Classic, you miss it. You miss that being a part of the classic stratosphere, if you will, Bayou Classic, Southern Heritage Classic, Magic City Classic. So to not be within that structure, you do miss, all the pageantry that surrounded that game. But it is what it is until until there's a recognition of the brand value.
Did they say they didn't need y'all? Is that true, Andre? They didn't necessarily say that, did they?
I hope not.
Yeah. You guys, I mean, your thoughts, Chris or Jared, about that?
To me, I can't argue with economics.
Yeah.
That's not my beat anyway. I mean, my degree from Delaware State University is in journalism. So if you're asking me about economics, I'm gonna pass off to people who know. But I'll say this: Tennessee State at some point has to stop, doing the Ray Parker Jr. thing, trying to, being in love with the other woman. You can play in a lesser conference like the Big South OVC and still have a SWAC game here and there. When the reality is, you just need to cut the cap and join the SWAC. That's going to be that is going to be my slogan for future reference to Tennessee State whenever we talk football in our conference, though. Cut the cap, join the SWAC. That's really all that's what it boils down to. You can't say that, okay, we miss Jackson State, but you don't want to yes, Edwin, I might be a little older in spirit than I actually am, but yes, Ray Parker Jr. If you guys have never heard the Ray Parker Jr. song, I'm in love with the other woman, you'll get the reference. But just go listen to it. But yes, there's nothing about Tennessee State, Big South OVC partnership that lends itself to any long-term solvability.
Yeah.
When you still have people who remember Big John versus Marino Kasem versus Jake Gaither, Eddie Robinson. Nobody cares to watch you play Lindenwood. Nobody cares to watch you play Tennessee Tech. Nobody gives a damn about those games. Let's be serious about this. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, they want to see the Aristocrats versus the Sonic Boom of the South, the Human Jukebox. They don't want to see whoever Lindenwood playing Flight of the Bumblebee by Atlanta A&T. Nobody cares about that. People want to see black colleges playing black colleges. So Tennessee State, as much as they're trying to be, one of the others, you've got to be realistic about where your bread and butter is. And your bread and butter is with black college football and black college athletics as a whole. So that is my slogan. If Chris Stevens for president 2028, cut the cap, join the SWAC.
But if they join the SWAC, they can't play hockey.
They can still play hockey. I mean, you never know. I mean, hey, Louisiana had a team in the old minor league hockey days called the Louisiana Ice Gators. Maybe they can bring the Ice Gators back. I don't know. But for every other sport, Tennessee State needs to cut the foolishness and join the SWAC. That's the bottom line.
State alums for a long, long time. Where's the win? Where is the win playing in the OVC? I I haven't seen it. So
Yeah, man, I hear you. I just, but okay. So here's the story, and I think I've said this before too. Way back in the day, back when Rudy Washington was the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I don't know what this guy's fascination was. This is back in the early days of the SWAC page. I don't know what this guy's fascination was with him feeling the need to just call me on any given night. And he would just want to talk. And that man used to fill my ear with some stuff. And I'm just like, bro, do you know what time it is right now? You know, you just call him. Seriously. So Rudy Washington told me one time that he extended an offer to Tennessee State to join the SWAC. And because he was aware of whatever the politics were in Nashville and with the state at the time, he offered to allow Tennessee State to join the SWAC as a football-only member. I will never forget that. And if I understood correctly, they declined over, I don't know what the actual reason was, but for whatever it is, they decided that they couldn't even join the conference as a football only member. But that actually did happen.
I think there's a counter argument in the comment there.
What's that? We do need to play more PWIs more. Do we want to be the best period or best black team? We should want to be. Okay, Brother Bakari, what's your affiliation? I'm gonna give you a chance to respond. What's your affiliation to? You affiliated with Tennessee State? Because I will just simply say this, man. I'm one who believes you can have your cake and eat it too. Look at Howard's football schedule. They got plenty of PWIs on that schedule. But yet they keeping it black. And I'm not saying you have to necessarily keep it black, but I'm just saying, man. I just don't think that you think that I don't want to necessarily say people have this thing about the grass is greener. All I'm gonna say is that we play PWIs, man. But again, you can't sit up here and talk about college football being the business that it is, and then go against your own best interests, scheduling teams that aren't going to necessarily put money in your coffers. So like Chris said, who's going crazy about Tennessee State playing against Lindenwood? Who wins with that? I didn't even know Lindenwood was an OVC opponent. Did they just recently join the OVC?
Yeah, last year.
I didn't even know what the hell Lindenwood was.
And that's the thing that's going to bother me about homecoming, because Delaware State does not have a HBCU for homecoming. I'll give each person a guess as to who we're playing for homecoming. I'll start with Jared.
You know what's funny about that? I did a predictions article for their season, and I still don't know.
Ken, any guesses?
I don't know.
Brother Bishop?
St. Francis?
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. St. Francis.
Boy, I said I told you. Boy, that damn Jared. Boy, look at you, boy.
Yeah, we're good.
I know they play them. So I just thought I'd guess it.
Yes, St. Francis of Pennsylvania, who nobody cares about. I mean, we're not going to that football. If I go at all, I mean, I'm still deciding whether I'm gonna go to homecoming or not. But if I go, I'll probably end up covering the game for HBCU Sports, but I'm not gonna be there, with bells on, because nobody cares to see St. Francis. I mean, we really need to do a better job, insulating ourselves. We're too. I mean, I know Ken said we don't want to do, the white man's ice is cold or grass is greener on the other side. But the fact of the matter is, we are literally all we've got, not just with respect to sports, but with black people in general in this country. So, not to get too politically motivated on this particular episode, but I would just rather see DSU if they would have just bought Bowie State back. Sure, Bowie State would probably beat us again this year, but it would have been nicer to see them than St. Francis of Pennsylvania. Quite frankly,
little fate.
Man, do you see the subhead? Do you see the subhead?
I hear you. I see
Concerned.
you.
Again,
concerned.
Dell
I
State
hear
alum.
you.
We're not good. We're not good right now.
This is what I'm going to say about that, right? Ken alluded to it, but I'm just going to flat out say it. Nobody cares in the athletic departments how good the teams are. It's about what makes money.
Yeah.
Of course,
Right.
winning championships is great.
Okay.
Winning championships, making tournaments,
Right.
for basketball's sake and even football. If we made the FCS playoffs, amazing. If we made the Celebration Bowl, amazing.
Yep.
What profit do we make? Are we in the green? That's all we care about. That's all we care about. In Tennessee versus Lindenwood, I'm not going to lie to you. I would not want to spend the money to buy a ticket to go see that game. I would want to see Tennessee State versus Jackson State. I would want to see Tennessee State versus Florida A&M. I would want to see Tennessee State against Grambling because there's history there. There's history in those programs that we can also teach to young kids who are aspiring to go to HBCUs or that would want to play for an HBCU, that they can understand the history and understand the rivalries, and they can be motivated when they play that game. You know what I'm saying? So I think people thinking that playing the white colleges will make us better. Guess what? We've played white colleges and it hasn't gotten us much either. So other than playing P5s and playing FBS teams, that's different. Playing against FCS white schools is no benefit to us. It's very little benefit to us. I don't want to speak out of turn because maybe there is a benefit that I don't know. But I know that in terms of what'll put the butts in the seats and what'll get the eyes on the television screen is historic HBCU versus historic HBCU.
Okay. To that point, and I don't want to get too far off the subject, but it's important that we I want to echo or provide an example of what Jared said about HBCUs and being in the business of playing against other HBCUs. All you got to do, and for the record, HBCUs do play PWIs, you know. And as much as it pains me, to my point, and as much as it pains me for SWAC schools to do this, I understand why they do it. I'm not really a big fan of it, but all you got to do is just look at this game coming Saturday between Jackson State and Southern. Between Grambling and Jackson State, and the game last week between Jackson State and Southern. That game between Jackson State and Southern, guess what? Non-conference game. Why do you think they played the game? Grambling and Jackson State, non-conference game. Why do you think they played the game? Because it's going to put butts in the seats. It's historic. They're games that, okay, the SWAC is saying, we're not going to make it mandatory that you guys play each other. And the ADs was like, oh, we going to play each other. Right. We ain't letting that money go. Yeah, we going to play each other. Yo, Ashley. Yo, man, let's do a home and home. You know, Ashley on the phone with Southern. Yo, I can't stand y'all asses, but let's do a home and home. Let's make this money. That's what I'm just saying. You know, so I'm making that point. Those games, the non-conference games, the non-conference games, you know, are at the discretion of the school, and they do it with the intent to whatever the arrangements may be. The game against Texas A&M, that's home and home. So Grambling traveled to Commerce. A&M keeps the gate. Commerce goes to Grambling next year. Grambling keeps the gate. That's the benefit. That money next year will benefit that revenue generates that Grambling will generate that home and home. That's going to generate help Grambling's budget for the fiscal year. So just, you know, that's where we are. But Grambling, Jackson State, and Southern's like, oh hell no. Commissioner McClellan saying we ain't gotta play, but guess what? We gonna play, and we gonna play, and they played. So just for what it's worth, it kind of drives me nuts, but I completely understand the rationale and the reasons why they do it.
What's a better gate, a Southland Conference game or an SIAC game?
It depends on who the SIAC team is, though.
Well, so but keep in mind, it all depends on the dynamics, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, when Grambling played Tuskegee, I think the payout was $60,000. So you're not going to have to pay a Division II program as much money because you're playing down, and obviously scholarship limits are lower and so forth. The same thing applies to the FBS schools when HBCUs play up. They get, three, and it's all relative to the school, 350, 450, 500. In the case of Grambling and Ohio State next year, $1 million. Tennessee State and Notre Dame last year, $1 million. So it's all relative. But that's a great question in terms of, what generates more interest. The fact that Grambling played Tuskegee, the historical significance behind that, there actually is a kinship. Just so you guys know, Booker T. Washington sent Charles P. Adams from Tuskegee to Grambling to establish Grambling. I mean, that's that kinship there. So, but that's a great question. Great question.
Yeah, going back to Tennessee State's predicament, last year Eddie George made some comments about how the fan base didn't seem to be motivated to come out to home games. And we all surmised that was because they're playing like Linwood, for example, for home games, and not Jackson State or Howard or school like that. And I think he now realizes, and I hope Mickey Allen probably realizes too, that maybe we should schedule some kin and instead of schedule some folks from the OVC and Big South and schools that don't have the same identity that we do. I know Tennessee State's moving differently than everybody else is in Black college football world. They have a hockey team now. They think about having baseball at the school. They seem to be entrenched in the OVC Big South as of now. So I think for now, Tennessee State is going to be where they are. They're not concerned with going to the SWAC or the MEAC. So they're going to be there, and that's probably accepted, I think.
At what point, though, as a fan, does my love of my school overtake who they're playing? I mean, doesn't it matter that it's just a Tennessee State game? I don't care what's going on. I'm a Tennessee State fan. I'm going to be there. I mean, at what point does your fandom supersede who you're playing?
Damn, Charles Bishop, that's a smart brother, man. He went to Jackson State, but he's smart. I had to throw a shot in there.
Of course you did.
Throw a
and
shot.
Look at A&T too. A&T is in the same predicament as Tennessee State is. Like, we heard from their former players, like, the games don't feel the same no more since we've been in the CAA, since we left the MEAC. The fan base doesn't seem to be as invested anymore in the game since they moved from the MEAC. So you're like, they move for different reasons that they think benefit them. But at the end of the day, like, what is it doing to like the value of your school in terms of like fan interest with your student body and then with your alumni, that you're not playing traditional teams you played forever? I think like schools got to think that when they decide to move conferences or not.
I do want to get to this comment really quickly before we move on to the next thing. Shouts out to DLOB 2010. He said, my thing is with Tennessee State people is they acting like they don't want to play UAPB as if they're actually going to Lindenwood or Tennessee Tech. Support your team and be quiet until the desired game is back. At least you got something going better than what you usually do in the season. And I have to agree with that 110%. I'm not saying that Eddie George was firing shots at UAPB, but I am saying that wistfulness can come off as such, so.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's not the first time Eddie, I want to be careful. It's not the first time Eddie George, though, has made comments that are kind of off the cuff.
Yeah.
How about the wings?
It's not all about the liquor. I'm just saying. I'm like, bro. I mean, you either accept the culture or you don't.
You sound a real red state right there.
That's what I'm saying. It's not about the liquor and the malt liquor. I'm just saying. You either accept the culture or you don't. And I all due respect, he's been nothing but a statesman, since he's been at Tennessee State. I get all that. But I'm just simply saying, man, you don't necessarily have a say in terms of the program and the conference that it's in, and it's not necessarily a bed that you made, but someone made that bed for you. And you just got to have to lay in that bed and just kind of go where it goes. Because, I asked Mickey, Mickey, what's the Mickey Allen, the athletic. When he first became, I interviewed him and I talked to him. And I say, yo, man, any changes on the possibility of, going to an HBCU conference? Basically, it was like, hey, it's a fair question, and we're going to play a lot of HBCUs, but it's not going to happen. And they haven't given us any indication, any inkling whatsoever to give people the impression to think that they're going to leave the OVC. They are good, meaning good that they are satisfied. They have no problems being there, no matter how much we talk about how they should be. And I have to be honest with you, I haven't really heard a whole lot of Tennessee State folks push back and saying we don't really care about being in the OVC conference. I haven't heard a whole lot of that. So the way I see it is, so go the alumni and their dollars, so go Tennessee State.
Exactly.
And maybe that's a good thing, because Charles said, to at what point are you loyal? And to me, Ohio, the alumni say, look, this is all about Tennessee State first and foremost. I'm just going to support the school no matter what it does. And if that's the route that they want to go, so be it. I can't fault them for that. But Kendrick, you made this comment, and we kind of said something along the lines last year when we got on the topic about Hampton and A&T leaving the MEAC. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to come. Plain and simple. And there's nothing to indicate that Tennessee State wants to be in a SWAC.
You're right. Yeah. And our last topic, we normally stray away from sports around this segment in the last few minutes of the show, since it's a roundtable. So you may be on a rock if you hadn't heard this news. So yesterday, it was reported that Sean P. Diddy Combs, this fella here, who donated money to HBCUs, he was indicted on sex trafficking and racketeering charges stemming from what federal officials described as freak-offs at various parties and such. This is a weird transition. I'm talking about Tennessee State to talking about this. I'm sorry, folks. But yeah, like, this has been in the news all day. My wife has been consumed with learning everything she can about this story. So since Diddy is a Black college graduate, he went to Howard.
I was just about to say, gone, Howard. I see you, Howard.
Howard donated to Black colleges. He's done work in that regard, and now he's in a whole baby oil tub full of trouble right now. I'm trying to be very careful with this, because it's not very funny. It's very serious.
Don't say that stuff.
Yeah, but what do we think of this? Like, it's just a
Shiny
part of it all that,
Superman.
this actually happened, or he's involved in this. Start with Chris. He's very passionate about this. Chris, what do you got to say about this?
Passionate about it. Wait, wow, way to put me on, way to put the spotlight on me. Shine the spotlight on me, make it hot. I'll say this from a cultural standpoint, we're gonna have to drop so much stuff of the last 30 years. Like, when you think about the music, when you think about the magazines, everything. I mean, Diddy has had his hands, no pun intended, on just about everything. So I really wasn't trying. See, here y'all. I wasn't trying to be funny with that. Now y'all got me laughing. But he's literally had his hands in just about everything, and it's gonna be. I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, I think what really. I mean, the baby oil stuff is bad enough. I mean, shouts out to one of my favorite professors from Delaware State, Dr. Uhuru Williams. He's a amateur DJ, and I shared it in the chat with the guys, but I was trying not to laugh at anything yesterday. This fool did a Mario Winans "I Don't Want to Know" DJ set with the overdubs of the news reports about baby oil and different things of that nature. And I told him, I said, I was good and not laughing at this all day, but you broke me. But I think what bothers me the most is that people seem to think that because he's Diddy, he's Puff, he's Love, or whatever he calls himself today, he's going to call himself inmate, whatever the serial number is on his jumpsuit right now, that he's absolved from.
Is that true?
It is.
Howard gave that money back?
Yep, Howard did give the money.
I ain't mad at you, Howard.
Yeah, Howard gave the money back. So they were like, "No,
I ain't mad at you, Howard." There you go.
But yeah, I think what people think because he's famous or whatever that he's absolved from consequences for what he's done, and we've seen what he's done. I mean, some whoever dropped that hotel video in the lap of the feds. I mean, they deserve a ton of credit because nobody would have believed that this dude was this level of depraved until they had to see it for themselves. And I think what's frustrating is I talked about this. I wrote about this when that first surfaced because I was talking about how Bill Cosby, used to give a lot of money to HBCUs, and then of course we found out that Bill Cosby was casually dropping pills in women's drinks. So Black colleges have to be careful with who they associate themselves with, in terms of money matters, because we've seen it several times over. We've seen it with Cosby. We've seen it with Diddy. We've seen it with a dude who looks like Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants, swear that he has $237 million. Probably didn't even have 237 cents. So we got to be careful.
Up, man?
I just can't get over how FAMU was fooled by a dude who looked like he was trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula from Mr. Krabs. I can't get over it. I'm never going to get over it because these are, as Ken has said before, these are people who run businesses who have higher degrees, and they got fooled by a dude who was saying ravioli, give me the formuoli. But yes, point withstanding, HBCUs really need to be careful with who we associate ourselves with in terms of trying to, build our resources up, because there are people like Diddy, there are people like Cosby, there are people like Gregory Jeremy that are just not good for business, not just good for business, but just not good for the reputation and the character of our schools. And this, I feel bad for Howard, but at least they were good enough to give the money back.
Hey, didn't he make a donation to J-State?
He did.
Yeah.
Did
I was about to ask Charles, like, how you feel about that now, knowing what Diddy's associated with.
I was about to ask you that.
I ain't got nothing to tell you. The check cleared.
Wait, there you go. Charles was like, "Oh hell no, you don't.
Right.
You ain't putting that on me."
I ain't going down with the ship on this. But I think that the thing that really jumps out for me is two of the biggest music moguls of the 90s are either going to be in prison or staying in prison. When you think about Suge Knight and Diddy during the 90s, they control the music industry. And now, their character issues have come to light. And now it's just amazing that, music that we all were part of during that time period. It's dumbfounding. It's wild. Yeah.
For me, I look at it in a way that, and even look, before all of this came to light, man, I used to have kind of, and I still do have a certain level of appreciation for individuals who transition, so, you got, Diddy and Jay-Z and I guess, Will Smith. But my point is those cats who were all in, the element back in the day, how they've been able to transition in a much mature sense to, take on, business initiatives and so forth. Dude, you look at what Diddy has done with Sean John and all this other stuff that they've been able to do. And for them to be able to transition from the hip hop game and being able to leverage this and to, creating multi-million-dollar conglomerates.
Yeah.
And to folks like us, you look at that and you're like, okay, good. And you thinking, and then you start hearing all these reports. Now, granted, I get it. Nobody's perfect, but you start hearing these reports and you're like, why? Why would you want to get in something like that? Why is it necessary?
Right.
Of all of the things that you could do, you want to do that? And it's amazing, man. Maybe, like I said, I don't know if there's a mindset that you get to the point to where, and I think this is more so it, Charles, since you mentioned, even Suge Knight, I think we at some point we get to this mindset to where I'm untouchable. I that's the only conclusion I can come up with. I'm untouchable, and I've done all these things, and I'm doing all these things, and the things that I really don't want nobody to know about. My boys ain't gonna let me down, and I'm gonna do what I want to do. And till you do something and you piss somebody off, and then somebody wants to retaliate, and then all of a sudden everything comes out.
Sure.
And and as we saw in this particular case, it was just like one card. That's the way you're gonna do me, okay? And it's just it never we see this all the time. Even with that movie producer, what's his name? That the white guy,
Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein, same way. You know, I think these cats, man, these multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar moguls get to the point to where they just think that they are untouchable, thinking that nothing can happen to them. And then before you know it, boom. I mean, I think today he's still in jail right now. They've denied him bail for a second time.
Yeah.
A second time. So it's just crazy to me that people think. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about that little bit of information. He offered $50 million. He offered to have his kids forfeit their passports. He said that he won't even have visitors. And the judge said, "You too dangerous." When that level of, you know, I guess whatever you would call bargaining doesn't work, there's some darker stuff going on here than what we know. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Racketeering Act, the RICO, them folk don't come knocking on your door unless they got a whole bunch of information already ready. So if you think that he's gonna skate on this one, if you think he's gonna come out saying not guilty and I'm filthy, you are sadly mistaken, because the feds, they have a field goal percentage akin to Dwight Howard in 2009. Get him around the basket, it's 2 points. They don't miss. So if you think that the feds just gonna make stuff up about somebody and say, you know, we're gonna get you this way. No, the feds have been building a case against you 4 years. 2008, I believe, is what the indictment read. 2008. So I mean, when they come knocking, they come knocking with intention. So there's nothing about this that says that Diddy's gonna waltz his way out of this one. It just doesn't seem possible to me.
Yeah, like for me, like my wife asked me, like, what do I think of it? I'm like, what I think about it is that we don't know these people. Yeah. You see their Hollywood perfectly curated persona, and we think, oh, they're good people because they donate to Black colleges, or they say they like kids, or they make really good music. But in the day, like, we don't know these people behind closed doors. We don't know what they show us, allowed to be seen in the public. I think that's the big lesson we take away from this is like, don't ever fall in love with your heroes, no matter who they are, no matter if anybody's hero was P. Diddy, him, or anybody else. I think, like, as it's been said in the chat in here, like, once you get to that a level of power and influence, you think you can get away with anything, and you're untouchable. And that's why Diddy was allowed to be an abuser for as long as he was. That's why he was allowed to do the things, the very deviant things he did at those parties, and nobody really spoke out until the evidence was so much that you really couldn't hide it anymore. So yeah, like, I just think, like, people need to realize, hey, like, it's more than likely your fave is probably a very bad person.
Shouts out to Edwin. That's why they call them the Alphabet Boys. Any three-letter org don't come in vain. FBI, CIA, ATF. Police come with the charge. They come with charges. Plural.
IRS.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They call
the reason
them
why
the alphabet
is because I know there's nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, they call them the alphabet.
You know what? What are you gonna do?
Nothing. If Charles wants to, it's okay. Nothing. I hear you, Charles. That's why I'm laughing. So anyway.
in my former life, I'm very
okay. It wasn't for me to say. That's the reason why. So yeah.
My former life, very familiar with the Alphabet Boy.
Used to work with the IRS. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody brought up like clergies and mega churches. Oh, they're full of pedophiles there and big rich people. Yeah.
Man.
So many stories we come across about church leaders doing very nefarious things to people. Yeah, like, don't trust anybody right here, man. Like, just question everybody's motives right now.
Can we talk about how we need to have Cat Williams go back on Club Shay Shay to close this damn portal that he opened at the beginning of the year? because it has been a year of people choosing violence since the moment he took a swig of whatever was in that cup and told Shannon, "You have an unnatural allegiance to losers, and it is unlike you." We have seen Diddy go down. We've seen Drake exposed. We've seen all sorts of manners and shenanigans. We really need to have Cat Williams go back on that program and close up whatever damn portal he opened, because 2024 has just been an absolute level of insanity that I cannot remember probably since 2016. I guess it's just an election year. I don't know, but when Cat went on there and said it's up for everybody, he meant that. I mean, I ain't gonna call the man a witch, but yeah, he knew some stuff. He knew something.
Yes, very much so. And especially don't trust Ken Rashad. You hear the way he talks to me. Definitely don't trust him either.
Okay. All right.
I've enjoyed it, fellas. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
this has been fun. Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hold on.
I know
Hold
Ken Rashad
on.
got
Hold
some things
on.
to
Hold
say
on.
to close us out.
Hold
go ahead.
on. Hold on. Y'all know what we do here, man. I'm asking you guys, become members of the members, level 1, level 2, level 3 supporters. And for as little as $4.99 a month, man, you go a long way in helping to support this channel, this operation, the longest running HBCU focused operation on the internet, bar none. Support this operation, man. $4.99 a month, $5, and you get this. And I can pay Kendrick and Chris and Jared. Because if you don't pay, I can't pay Kendrick. I can pay Chris and Jared, but I can't pay Kendrick if you don't pay. Just saying. Anyway, thank you guys all for taking a moment to hear us talk. Charles Bishop, brother, thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man. It's your ass Saturday, but it's all good, man. That's my man. Hey, and stop impersonating me in hotel lounges, in hotel spaces.
Man, you done bought him many a drinks. Thank you.
All right, guys, man. We see y'all next time, man. God bless you.